parents call him to get his input on electronics. So he wanted to be part of it, but it's Good Friday, he couldn't come tonight, but we didn't want to delay it, he agreed with that. I'm going to tell you, we're very blessed. While I may be the owner of this place, you know, you got two of the best guides, two of the best LFT pro staffers that we have, and that's Billy Lawson, who is also a very accomplished social media expert and blogger, and he's as good a communicator as I know of. And he and Michael McFarland are going to teach y'all tonight. They're going to share a bunch of things. Where they want to share with you is up to them. And I guarantee you they're going to want to take questions. I'll let them have their format up to them, but you're going to have fun. They felt very strongly we're not going to charge. It's not our intent to charge. We're not trying to get money from you. We're trying to have you become better fishermen. And I don't know two better guys that will help you do that and be as patient with you as Billy Lawson and Michael McFarland. They're both very accomplished as communicators, and like I say, we didn't bring you here to say anything. As a matter of fact, to prove that to you, I'm going to give you a 15% discount on anything that's LFT soft plastic before you leave. If you want to buy anything, I can't do rides and reels for that because I'd be stupid. But I am that way. But we're not encouraging you to buy anything. Just come here, learn, and we're going to have these. We haven't decided if it's every 2 weeks or once a month, but the frequency will be determined by your reaction and by how many of you will come back whenever you can. We're going to try to have them on Fridays at 6. They'll last to 7:30 or 8, depending on how many people are here and how many teachers. But the next session, we will plan on having Slade Dougherty be involved. And plus, I'll just tell you, Billy's is going to record this, and he's going to post it and try to teach some of his bloggers who couldn't come tonight. So have fun, be very open to ask questions, and just have fun. Our goal is very simple. We want you to leave here a better angler. And you know what? If that means you fish somebody else's lures, so be it. If it means you learn something about our lures to make our lures fish better for you, so be it. Does that make sense? So I sincerely appreciate you coming. Hope you learned something. If you have questions of them tonight or of us later. And by the way, Kevin, I want to introduce Kevin too, because Kevin is the weekday follow-up when I'm not here. I'm here, but you know, Billy's here Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, or he's around here. So does that all make sense? Yep. And I really appreciate it. Thank y'all for coming. This is Kevin Sharp right here. The small man right here is Kevin Sharp. Okay?
Hamming it up for the camera.
He's obviously very bashful, as you can see. He's kind of camera shy, as you see, by turning the camera on himself. But again, thank you all for coming. You're not here to hear me, you're here to hear these guys, so have fun. And it's good to see all y'all again, okay? I'm moving slow because of my bad back. But look, you're in good hands. Billy's going to start it off. He's going to go as long as he wants, and then Michael's going to pick up after that. Okay, guys? Ladies? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Okay, Billy, thank you.
All right, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to grow this thing. We got plenty of room out back, and the more people we get, the better it'll go. So we'll continue to grow it. First, let me say I'm honored and humbled to be able to do this. Mike's known me for a long time. I was just a weekend guy looking for the next bite like everybody else, and I still feel like I am that same person. There's probably people in here that know more about fishing than I do. So I'm honored to be here. I'm humbled to be here, and I'm just going to talk about some things that I know of that maybe can help y'all out. That's all we're going to do. So I'm going to try to keep it current. We're going to probably do these. We're going to try and do them every 2 or 3 weeks on Fridays. So I'm going to try and keep the information as current as possible, because we all know bass fishing is like this giant puzzle, right? It's got about 1 million pieces. And every time you get a corner put together, somebody comes along and shuffles your pieces around. So it's always changing. I had planned on doing a sight fishing talk today. Well, we all know what happened this week. We got a bunch of rain. Water rose 2 feet. There's not much sight fishing left to be had. I'm sure there'll be some more come up. But right now, it's hard to see them, right? So we're going to talk about fishing shallow, flooded vegetation, because that's what we have going on today. So, that being said, let's get started on that. The first tool that I'm going to use for flooded vegetation, and in my opinion it's the best tool, is a hollow body frog. Okay, this is a spro popping frog. That's my favorite frog, and not because it's a better frog than X, Y, or Z frog. It's because it's the most versatile frog, right? That's really important to me when I'm fishing in a situation like this. You got shallow flooded vegetation, you've got to cover a lot of water, you got to find those fish because there's no telling where they'll be. That's an expansive amount of area that we're talking about, right? So I want something that's going to be versatile. I don't have to spend any time retying. I don't have to worry about the bait. Something I have confidence in, and I can do a lot of different techniques. With that Spro popping frog, you can point the rod at it, jerk on it, spit water. You can walk it. You can do the old Ronnie Kelly has a little trick where he jerks it 3 times real quick and makes it do a little dance and then stops it, and pauses it. So just a really versatile bait. That's my favorite color right there. I don't know. Amazon tree, it's yellow belly is what I call him. Oh, yellow belly. Just a yellow belly and a green top. So that's my favorite frog color. I basically use 3 colors. That right there, solid black and solid white. I kind of end and begin with those 3 colors on a frog. What I really love about this in this situation is we know as we're going along and you've got, willow bushes and buckbrush and maybe there's some matted grass, maybe it's gator weed, all this stuff, you can't just fish any bait through there. You can't throw a crankbait through it. You can't throw a spinnerbait through it sometimes. That bait right there, if I've got from here to that shop flooded willow bushes, and that happens sometimes, I can take that bait, throw it as low and hard as I want to, and fire it as far back in there, no matter how many tree limbs I hit. The only thing stopping me from getting further back there is if it actually hits something and stops. And I can fish it through all that stuff. And that's what you have to do. That's what I mean about covering water. It's very important that you cover every inch of that cover until you find a bite, right? Once you find a bite, then you can start to dial in how they're setting up. So frog, very versatile tool. Setup on this, I'm going to go a little pro stuff on you guys for a minute. I take pride when I talk about products that I don't just pump it because I've got a deal, right? I'm on the Limit Rods Pro staff through Ronnie here at LFT. The deal on this is this 7.4 heavy limit rod. This is the 5 series. These retail from $130 to $150. That is the best frog rod I've ever had. I've had a bunch. I was on the Dobbins Pro staff before I came over to Limit. That is hands down the best frog rod I've ever put my hands on. It's got, if you guys look for a 7.4 heavy, that's a lot of tip, right? That's a lot of tip for a heavy action rod, 7.4. You think of that as kind of a meat stick, but this has got a lot of tip. Well, that is very important when you're talking about being able to skip that bait or throw it really far at a low angle, or even if you're in more open water, type of deal, making that frog land really soft. Also, the walking action and being able to be more versatile, that's where that rod comes in. So what I would say to you is buy a Limit 7.4 heavy. But other than that, I like something in that 7.5 foot range, between 7 and 7.5 foot. And I want to have a rod that has this, right? You got to have the meat, which this rod has plenty of, but you need to have that for a frog, okay? All right. Second bait that I use a whole bunch in this situation. Look at that. I just hung it up there. I meant to do that, y'all. See that? Hung it up there like I was meaning to do. The LFT flipper, which is a beaver style creature bait. There's a lot of them. One of the other ones I like because it's a little bit different is made by Strike King, and it is structure bug. You guys heard this? Y'all seen the structure bugs? They got the little arms on the side with little rage deals. They have a little bit more swimming action. You'll notice on both of those that I like, the LFT one has these rudders on the back that when the bait moves through the water separates the legs, which causes them to kick too. So that's the deal on my beaver baits. The 2 that I use both have a different action than just a dead fall, right? Just something a little more subtle, make it look a little bit more alive than your average stock beaver. The good thing about this one is it is a little bit narrower too, and when we're flipping this heavy cover, if it's gator weed or willow bushes, it'll get hung up on that gator weed, right? Well, if you've got a skinnier bait, it just finds more holes than a wider bait. And so that's where the LFT flipper, having a narrow body, really helps out. There's a 1 ounce weight. This is a punching setup right here. It's on 50-pound braid, punching setup. But there are plenty of times when I'll take that flipper and put it on, say, a 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, and just go through there and flip the edges or just kind of softly fall into the holes where I've got open water holes in the cover itself. It's a very, again, versatile. Versatility and efficiency are the 2 most important things that you can come across, especially when you're fishing shallow water and it's springtime. It's Lake Fork, and I've got to go behind Mike Callahan, and Kev, and I'm going behind 3 or 4 boats down the bank, right? Well, it's important to be efficient and versatile. If you can be more efficient, keep your bait in the water longer than they can, a higher percentage of your time, that's an extra bite that you get that they don't. So, that's real important. I like to go with a 50-pound braid a lot in this flooded vegetation situation. And it's not because of putting a hook set in them or anything like that. A lot of times this is close quarters combat, so you don't need super heavy line or stiff line with no stretch to get the hook in them. You're plenty close. You can set the hook with 12-pound mono and drill them. The deal is, when we're talking about 5-pound plus fish, when we're talking about this flooded cover, we want that braid because that braid is going to cut the grass stems, the gated grass stems, even the limbs on the little. Sorry about that, YouTube. My ducks, I can't, it's live. That's live. Y'all are on YouTube. Say hi to YouTube.
It turned into a duck hunt session.
So, yeah, we got duck hunt seminars, bass fishing seminars. So yeah, that's why the braid to me is important in all this heavy cover, is the ability to cut through all of that junk that we're fishing. So we're fishing in some slop, right? So we want to be able to get that fish out of there. That's another thing about being efficient. It also keeps your bait moving in and out of that cover quicker. Because you flip in there, your bait gets hung up on some grass, you just snap that braid and it rips right through there. Versus mono, where you get wadded up and then you tear the grass mat apart and it runs all the fish off, right? Another efficiency thing. So that's it. This again is the 7.4 heavy that I'm flipping with right here. I love that rod too, same thing. I want to have that little bit of tip, but I got to have that meaty backbone to get those fish out of that cover in a hurry. That's the important part about that. What am I looking for? When I'm talking about, because we got this massive expanse of shallow water. So when I go in the lake first floods like it has this week, how do I pick where I start? When it first happens like we have going on right now, I'm going to look for the deeper water access because that's going to be the first place they move in from. Does that make sense? So when you got new water, that means all those fish were in deeper water because the lake didn't have any water up in that stuff. So they have to come from that deeper water at the very beginning. As time goes on, that's not necessarily the deal. There's two things. The top two things that I look for when we're talking about shallow flooded stuff, number one is the health of the vegetation or the bushes, whatever it is, the cover that you're fishing, the health of it. If it's dead and decaying, that actually takes oxygen out of the water, and that makes the fish feel sick. When they don't have as high oxygen content, they just don't feel as good. When they don't feel as good, they don't bite as good. When you got the flu, do you eat the same way as when you're happy and healthy? No, right. So that's the deal there. So what you want to find is that good, healthy, green, vibrant, thick, lush vegetation, whether it's gator grass, whether it's hydrilla coontail, even a willow bush that has a bunch of leaves on it that's lively will hold more fish than a dead one 9 times out of 10. There are the oddball situations where weird things happen. Most of the time, that healthy, thick, green vegetation is what you're looking for. The second thing, bottom content. That is so important, and they kind of coincide. Because the healthier the vegetation usually tends to grow on a firmer bottom. The firmer bottom produces less silt in the water, the water's cleaner, and that again makes the fish feel better. I feel like when they've got a bunch of silt in the water, a bunch of debris in the water, I just don't think they feel as good because they're breathing that. That's their air, right? So, if you're in, Houston, Texas, and you're breathing in smog, you're not going to feel as good as when you're in this, God's country, East Texas, right? Air's cleaner out here, you feel better, right? So the same thing for the fish. I want healthy vegetation, hard bottom. That's the two most important factors when I'm trying to decide where do I start in all this massive expanse of shallow, flooded vegetation. That being said, we've got the baits, we've got the gear, we've got wear. Let's open it up for questions. Who's got questions? What do you say, Tim?
Does the vegetation grow better on the hard bottom?
Yes. Most of them do. Lily pad stems, lily pads tend to grow on hard bottom. Hydrilla will stay lively, or even coontail will stay lively and healthier in a firm bottom versus a soft bottom. You can see it in the vegetation. If that vegetation's got that slime on it, and it's getting a little bit of that deal. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. When it gets super hot, sometimes that vegetation starts dying, or super cold. And then when it dies, it creates that slimy feel to it. But just in general, the more crisp and firm that vegetation is, the healthier it is. Usually they're on a harder bottom.
When you're fishing that reel on the frogs, what reel ratio are you using? 7 to 1, or using fast?
So,
or using 5 to 1, or you using? How fast are you moving that frog?
I don't have a real sponsor, and I'm fixing to tell you why. None of them like me. Because I'm fixing to sell a lot less reels than what you've been told you're supposed to have, right? For flipping and frogging, they're going to tell you, well, you want a high-speed reel because you're not actually moving the bait with the reel handle, so you want to be able to catch up to the fish, blah, blah, blah. There's two theories that I can accept on reels. One is go fast on everything because you can always slow down. You can't always speed up. You can only go so fast with your hand. I can fully get on board with that philosophy. My deal, we've talked about versatility and efficiency, right? Well, versatility and efficiency, a big part of that is not changing baits out, not, spending time dinking with tackle during the fishing day, having your stuff ready to go the night before. So for me, I tend to go, almost every one of my reels is like 6'3", middle gear, right? Because I can go faster, or I can go slower, and I feel like it gives me the widest range of speed for whatever technique that I'm fishing. There may be a time when I get older and my wrists start hurting more that I may go to a low gear ratio for deep cranking or something like that. But for right now, it doesn't bother me to crank with a 6'3", not one bit, and I feel like I've got more variety. I can hit a wider variety of speeds with that middle gear, so that's what I do. What else?
Are they still spawning in
Absolutely.
certain areas?
Absolutely. You talking about specifically here at Fork?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir. We had a very, very big wave on the south end of the lake at the end of last week. When we had that full moon in the middle of the week, those fish were pulling in. They set up and got on beds at the tail end of last week. Now, when that happens, they're not just going to get up there and drop their eggs right away and go. I mean, that's about a 2-week cycle that those fish will be up there in that spawning phase. The problem that you have is you can't see them. Because on that south end of the lake, the water was clearer, and we could visibly see them, but they were in 2 or 3 foot of water. So we had really clear water, really clean bottom areas where they were spawning in, and you could see them good. And then the water came up 2 foot. So now instead of being in 2 to 3 foot, they're in 4 to 5 foot. The clarity that we have on Fork right now, when you're in 4 or 5 foot of water, it's, I mean,
Would
you
still
better
try to- Would you still try to find, like, hey, that looks like it might be a protected area right there,
That
by a
is-
stump with some grass?
that's one way to go about it. That is certainly a way to go about it. So you can blind fish for beds. You don't have to see a fish to bed fish. You can go through an area, and if you're experienced with fishing and you've seen fish on beds throughout your life, and you know where they like to bed, kind of what it looks like, you can see the shadow of the bed a little bit, maybe a lighter spot or a darker spot, round circular deal, Maybe you just know the types of areas and the types of cover they like to bed on in that area. Like on the south end of Fork, we know if you've got a couple different laydowns, and it's in hard bottom area, there's a bed right there. I feel like every time pretty much. So you can definitely stay back off those areas and fish for those fish. It becomes a deal where how confident are you in that technique? Because it's hard to sit there and throw to one spot. And we all know bed fishing, sometimes you can sit on a fish for 5 minutes, sometimes it can take an hour. So how confident are you to sit there for 15, 20, 30 minutes and throw at something that you can't see, right? I don't like to do that because, if I can get right over the bed and see the fish swim off, then yes, I'll back off and fish for it. But as far as just blind fishing beds, I don't like to do that here. The reason I don't like to do that here is because there's fish in all 3 phases, and we can fish for them however we want to. We're blessed here on Fork. I can catch big fish from Highway 19 to the dam. There's big fish all over this lake, and so we don't have to go fish for those harder to see bed fish. I can go up to the north end and get on this shallow water deal, right? And it gives me options. If it was a smaller lake and that was really, the whole lake was kind of spawning, then you'd be forced to do that.
So you're fishing that frog now?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So topwater is,
Yes,
is
absolutely.
that post-spawn fish that are?
Right, so right now what I've
You get
done,
that?
yes, sir. So what I've done this week is I'm transitioning from fishing for sight fishing and spawning fish, and I've gone back to the north end because back in the end of February we were actually catching. I think February 18th was the first day I caught a bedfish this year. I actually saw it on a bed and caught it. So as you can imagine, we've got a lot of post spawn fish on the far north end of the lake. So I've actually transitioned, gone back up there, fishing all this flooded vegetation and cover, and I'm fishing for post spawn fish.
Okay.
What else? Somebody got something. We got a few more minutes here. Nothing?
How deep are the post-spawn fish moving out to?
So in
Are they
this,
going deeper or?
we have some. And I know that Mike is much more of a deep water angler than I am. I probably stick to the dirt more than any other guide that we have. I mean, I get kind of uncomfortable when I have to lower that trolling motor all the way down. So these fish that I'm targeting on the north end of this lake where it's flooded cover like we're talking about, they're not going out. They're in post-spawn mode, but they're going into the cover. So they're actually getting more shallow than they were when they spawned. They're going up in there on heavy, dense cover where they can rest and feel comfortable and secure. And when a good meal comes by, they get it, right? And that's what we're doing. When we pop that flipping bait in there and it just falls right by their head, it's an easy meal to hammer. That's the deal when you're talking about post-spawn fish. You're looking at, you got to think they're tired, they're beat to heck and back, and they're lazy. And they really prefer to have a good bulky meal that's an easy target. Like a bluegill on a bed. That's a big deal in the post spawn, right? So when the bluegills start bedding, them big females will just get on the nearest piece of cover and wait for one of them bluegills to screw up and wander off that bed, and they jump out and get them. And that's kind of the fish that we're targeting. That's the mindset they're in. They're stationary fish. They're stuck up in that heavy stuff, and we're going in there to get them. And Mike will be able to talk to you a little bit more about some of the fish that are pulling out on post spawn situations.
So are you just fishing that frog early and then switching to the
Nope.
for all day?
We can throw it all day. Now, that's not every day. It's not every day, but when we're talking about the cover that we're fishing, they're tucked up under there. Yeah, that's the deal. They're getting up in that dirt shallow water in this newly flooded vegetation. So you're talking about a fish, the fish that we're targeting, 5+ pounders, they're 6, 8 inches deep to a foot deep. Sometimes the really big ones, the 10 pounders, they're really tall fish. They're up there in 2 foot of water or less. That frog's only, that's one tail, just one thrust of its tail to get to that frog, and he's right over his head. So if you're in there and they're up under that cover, you can throw that frog. That's why I love it, because you can throw it in there wherever no matter how deep they get, how far back in there they hide. You can throw that frog in there and get it right over their head, tease them with it. They'll react to it.
Are you fishing pads with it?
Yeah, I'll fish pads with it. On Fork, we've got a few good pad stands. We've got a few good areas that have them. They're just not everywhere. I would say, as far as the type of cover that I'm fishing, the number one thing that I'm looking for, that I like to see, that seems to be the consistent factor in all the areas that I'm fishing right now, is going to be grass. And it's mostly coontail. There's very, very little hydrilla in the lake right now. There is some, but it's not much. So that coontail grass is what I'm looking for. And when I see that, I know that I'm in a good, healthy area, a good, fertile area. The water's going to tend to be cleaner because it's going to filter it out. And that seems to be the common denominator. Most of the areas I fish, I may fish buckbrush or willow bushes in there. There may be some lily pads mixed in. But every one of those areas that I'm fishing has that coontail.
Are you, you may have already said it, are you just throwing a popping frog?
I like to stick to that one. It's not the only one I throw. I'll throw the regular, I don't know what they're called, just regular old
spro frog?
Yeah, so the bronze eye shad or whatever it's called. And it can be a spro, it can be the KVD sexy frog. We do throw those too, right now a little bit, but I like that one because I can do everything with that one. It's just very versatile. I can walk it, I can spit it, I can slow it down, speed it up. That frog just to me is the most versatile frog that you can put your hands on. Any more? Anything else? Nobody? Nobody. All right. Well, look, Ronnie, I don't know if he said it. I know he told me before, if you guys are interested in one of those 7.4 heavy rods for frogging out there, he's got them out there, and I think he's doing 10% off today only. 1 day deal, 10% off on the limit rods. So if y'all are interested in some of those, I love them. I've been, like I said, I came from Dobbins, and I'm really happy with them. And be sure y'all get you some flippers, because I promise you, that bait will catch you a bunch of fish over the next couple months. And these are patterns that work starting right now, and they will stay. You can do them through the end of June, really. That's
The Okeechobee craw?
that is Okeechobee swirl. That's my favorite color. But anything that's in a green pumpkin or watermelon type base is good. Whatever you have the most confidence in, if you like watermelon red, if you like, June bug, whatever it is, just a darker based bait, because we're throwing this bait in the dark areas, in the shady areas, so I like a dark bait. Black and blue's even fine. Black and blue's never wrong. So, all right. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming out and listening to me. I hope that helps somebody. Hope I didn't just ramble on about nothing. Mike's giving me the soft clap.
I was waiting for everybody to start clapping.
Well, wait till you get done.
That's all right. No, thank y'all very much. And Mike's going to come take over for me. And he's probably going to talk to you a little bit about some of the exact opposite of what I just talked about.
No, actually I'm not. I'm
Okay.
gonna elaborate on what he spent, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Billy and I are definitely two different kind of
Right.
fishermen. Hello guys, my name's Mike McFarland. I actually want to talk to you about the shad spawn, but in lieu of what Billy's got us going here, I think we can expand a little bit. When we talk about these post-spawn fish, it really came to mind that I want to make sure you guys understand something. When you run up north and you go far enough where the lake starts to be the same all the way across, you don't really have any offshore structure. You have your creek there, and you have your channel bends and swings and stuff, but those fish will post-spawn kind of right in the same place that they spent their pre-staging. So they don't have as much of a move, in other words. So what Billy's talking about is by going up north, he's actually catching some of these fish that are post-spawn. They're back in the junk. They stayed in the junk. They never left it, really. So maybe they went up and spawned 4 feet of water, but they went back out mere 20 yards and post on a tree in 10 or 12 feet of water, and after they felt better, they've already moved back into that same area where they laid those eggs. So they will eat their own kind, and they most definitely will have bluegill revenge, like he talked about. Yeah. So when you're down more in that mid-lake south end, where there is the advantage to those fish to go offshore, there's a lot of offshore. There's 50, 60, 70 feet of water. There's humps, long points. There's features there that are usable. You're talking about a whole different class of fish, not a different size of fish, different acting fish. It acts different. Most of these fish that I think Billy loves to fish for live in the shallows all year long, and I bet you he'd testimony to that. And it's a phenomenal thing. They're always fishing the shallows. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. So just to clarify that when you run north, you're going to say somebody I'm going out for post-spawn fish throwing a frog. Well, that's not how they post-spawn. I thought we throw a crankbait offshore or a Carolina rig. Depends on where you're at. Many fish will move back in just a few days after they've spawned. That's where the food is. That's where they can get fat quickly. So real quick, that's all I want to say about that part of it. My name is Mike McFarland. I'm one of the guys here. I've been with Ronnie Parker for about 7 years now. I came from the West Coast. I really prided myself offshore in deep fishing. I don't want to get too much in that.
I'm doing great yourself. I gotta fix it now, because I'm going other way.
Well, there we go, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed that live stream. I'm sure you guys have been watching the channel and probably heard all that before. Appreciate it, Mr. Ronnie. Thank you, Ronnie, for letting us do this.
Billy, you're the man. Thank you so much. And we're just scratching the surface.
That's right.
We decided to go ahead and pull a trigger tonight on Good Friday, and the reason we did was because we got tired of aiming.
Right.
We decided to pull a trigger,
Probably
because
just
if
go
we
ahead and
don't
do
pull a trigger, and we're gonna blow this thing up, and we're gonna have it more frequently than people might think. It's gonna be primarily you and Michael and Slade Dougherty, so I'm really excited. It's not about selling more here, it's about educating the angler to catch more fish.
Yep.
And that feeds everybody, and helps everybody get better.
When I was
Thank you.
talking to Ronnie about doing this, that was the big deal. Was I wanted this to be kind of set up and targeted towards the same thing that my YouTube channel is,
Thank you.
and that's just sharing the knowledge and helping everybody find another bite. Right? That's what it's all about.
Thank you, Billy. That's well said, and I appreciate you, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
We appreciate you guys watching Your Lake Fort Guide as always. Hope you enjoyed this live stream coming at you live.
I missed it.
You're on YouTube right now. YouTube live right there.
It's the other half going on back there right now.
We appreciate you guys watching. If you like this, hit that thumbs up. Let me know. Leave the comments down below. Let me know what y'all thought. We'll do it again on the next one. Hope to see you here live in person. And we'll see you next time right here on Your Lake Fort Guide.
Got one of the back.